Hey there and welcome. Ever just stop and think, why am I the way I am? Well, today we're going to be digging into our personal histories to really understand how the stories of our past create the person we are right here in the present. So let's get started. So let's just dive right in with a pretty big question. Are you repeating a story that you didn't even write? I mean, that's a powerful thought, isn't it? It suggests that maybe some of our habits, our patterns, our reactions might have roots that go way deeper than our own personal experiences. To get our heads around this, let's use a metaphor. I want you to imagine your life is an archaeological dig. Now, what you find on that dig, well, that depends entirely on the tools you bring with you. Today, we're going to look at two very different toolkits for this kind of personal excavation. All right, first up, we've got an approach that's all about mapping out your life story, kind of like creating a detailed timeline of, well, you. Let's call this first toolkit the narratologist's brush. Kind of like that name. The whole idea here is to gently sweep away the dust from your memories, using some really specific questions to paint a complete, cohesive picture that connects your past right up to your present. What's so powerful about these questions is that they go way beyond just the facts of what happened. They dig into emotions, dreams, obstacles, and, real growth. They help you find that common thread that connects your childhood dreams to the strengths you gained from tough times and the values that maybe you still hold on to today. It's about seeing your life not as just a bunch of random events, but as a real story with a plot and meaning. Okay, so now let's switch gears and look at our second toolkit. This one takes a very different angle. It shifts the focus from your own individual story to finding specific patterns that might just be echoing through your family, down through the generations. So we'll call this toolkit the theologian's sieve. Like sifting for gold? Instead of painting that big, broad picture, this tool is designed to sift through your family history, trying to isolate very specific behaviors or struggles to see if they're part of a bigger, inherited pattern. This quote really gets to the heart of this whole framework. It suggests that when you repeat certain actions over and over, you can create a deep-seated tendency that, that can then be passed down. Now, to really get what this means, we need to break down a few key terms that this approach uses. First up is the word sen. Now, within this framework, it's not about fire and brimstone. Think of it more like an archer trying to hit a target and missing. It's really just about falling short of a goal or a standard you were aiming for. From there, we get transgression. This one's a bit more active. It's defined as knowing where the boundary is and stepping over it anyway. You know where the line is, and you choose to cross it. It's a violation. And finally, we have iniquity. This is described as a behavior that's been practiced so often it's become a deep-seated part of someone. It's almost an automatic, spontaneous reaction that kind of distorts a person's nature. So you see the progression? It goes from a single act to a totally ingrained trait. So here's how that progression really works, step by step. According to this framework, it starts with a certain kind of action. Then, through repetition, that action becomes a whole lifestyle. Over time, this lifestyle carves out a deep-seated weakness. That's the iniquity, which is then believed to be passed on. So, how do you actually use these toolkits? I mean, what does it look like in practice? Well, both of them require looking back at your family history, but as you're about to see, they're looking for very, very different things. And this right here, this really highlights the difference in a huge way. I mean, look at this. If you're looking at the same person, your mother, for instance, the narratologist's brush asks what you appreciate, focusing on connection and growth. But the theologian's sieve asks you to identify her known failures, searching for the root of a specific pattern. It's two completely different lenses on the exact same history. So after seeing how these two tools work, it kind of begs the question, what's the point of the dig? I mean, why go through this whole process at all? Let's take a look at the end goal for each of these approaches. So for the narrative toolkit, the goal is all about integration and understanding. It's about taking all the pieces of your life and putting them together to create a cohesive story, identifying the strengths you've built, getting some real perspective on your journey, and ultimately accepting the person you've become. The goal of the theologian's sieve, on the other hand, is fundamentally different. It's much more of a diagnostic tool. The whole purpose here is to trace a negative pattern all the way back to its source, its root system, with the explicit goal of breaking that pattern to find healing and freedom from it. And within this theological framework, there's a very clear 4-step process for taking action. It's laid out as a path of active engagement that's aimed at systematically dealing with whatever negative patterns you found during your dig. So, after exploring these two pretty distinct ways of digging up the past, we finally get to the most important part of all: the future. Because here's the ultimate takeaway. It doesn't really matter if you use a brush to paint a full story or a sieve to find one specific pattern. The underlying reason for doing it is exactly the same. It's about understanding the ground you are standing on right now so you can be way more intentional about what you decide to build next. Which leaves us all with this one final thought. You're the one writing the story now. So what do you want the next generation? Your kids, your family, your community? What do you want them to learn from the story that you choose to live? What's your legacy going to be?